Spreadshirt screwed me over and made me look like a jackass in front of all my viewers. Let me tell you about it. Alright, so I typically don't do videos like this, but I haven't been this mad about something in a long time. And all of you deserve to know what happened, given how vague I've been about all of this. Merch is something I've been asked about for years, so last November I started preparations for a merch line. I made a new logo, I did a Wee Tanks design that parodies Among Us, and I even commissioned a friend to do 2 awesome shirt designs. Those designs in question being a Fish Vince design, and one of my animated alias and Kermit called Tag Team. Links to his social media below, by the way. He's a super talented guy. When it comes to storefront options for smaller content creators, YouTube basically only gives us 2 options if we want built-in integration: Teespring and Spreadshirt. The first one I tried was Teespring. For a lot of YouTubers, this is their go-to option because of how easy it is to set up a personalized storefront. Unless you're like a big name and can get your stuff sold through a personalized distributor, such as how Scott the Woz has his own page on Pixel Empire, you're basically stuck with the print-on-demand sites. And as far as those go, Teespring isn't terrible. My 2 issues were: 1, the shipping prices were kinda high, almost half the price of the order in fact, and 2, the mugs, which is one of the products I was most excited about, were... I mean, just look at this. Who thinks this is okay? When I selected a blue cup, I didn't mean a blue rectangle printed on top of a white cup. And what's going on here? This is a pretty high quality image I used. So why is it so pixelated around the lips? I would never sell my viewers something I wasn't happy with myself, so I turned my attention to Spreadshirt. The layout of the website felt a lot more disorganized, including the store page you set up for yourself. But as long as the print quality was competent, which it was, the mug turned out pretty good. That's all I cared about. All 4 of my designs were approved and ready to go. I had a number of different products for each design. We were ready to launch this baby. All of this was in the middle of January, by the way. I spent the rest of the month working on my merch promo video, which I went ham on. The day I uploaded the promo video, I was up until 10 a.m. working on it. Altogether, this was a really ambitious project for me. Over 2 months of planning, designing, editing. It was a lot of work, but I was happy to finally have everything up, promoted, and publicly available. That was until less than 1 hour later after my promo video went up. Things started to go south. I started to have people messaging me that certain items were not on the store. At first, I chalked the problem up to how disorganized Spreadshirt was. It wasn't until I navigated the website myself I found out they straight up rejected my Psylocke Hawk logo. My logo made up nearly 50% of the merch. So there I was 1 hour in, promoting my merch line on literally every social media I had, and the store didn't even have my logo. So I sent them an email basically asking, hey, what the hell happened? This is my own logo I designed, so why is it just now getting taken down? Mind you, everything, including the logo, was approved weeks in advance. I sent out the email and I was waiting about an hour until I just decided to call the customer service line. I mean, this was day 1 of my merch line, so I needed to take care of this ASAP. Some lady picks up, I tell her my situation and asked her if I could get an answer on what the hell happened. She puts me on hold for about 15 minutes, and when she comes back, she tells me my logo has been reapproved. I told her thank you, but I wanted to know what happened. She doesn't respond though. She was talking as if she couldn't hear me. I don't know if that was true or not, but she ends up hanging up on me either way. So I never got an answer, but whatever I guess, because we're good now, right? Well, we were for an entire 5 seconds until I refreshed the page, and now 2 more of my designs are rejected. I tried calling them back over and over, but they would not pick up. At one point, they even hung up on me before I was able to speak to a representative. That's not a joke, by the way. I'm being 100% serious. I set all of this up and made sure to get it approved weeks in advance so I could avoid a situation like this. And yet there I was with a new video that had me up all night advertising my new store that didn't even have the items I promised my viewers in said video. To prevent embarrassing myself further, I took everything down, including my new video, until I could get all of this situated. I had a lot of people ask me if this was related to copyright since one of my designs has Kermit. And in confidence, I told them no, because beyond the design being defendable under parody clause, the first design to be rejected was my own logo, which has absolutely no copyrighted material whatsoever. It's my own logo and I made it myself. So there's no way that any of this has anything to do with copyright. Or at least that's what I thought, until a day later I finally got a response to that email I sent. We're going to go through this email and break it down, alright? Hello Psylocke Hawk, thank you for your email. We cannot print the likeness of the Muppets or Among Us. Okay, let's stop it right there. 3 lines in and we already have a problem. We'll discuss the Kermit thing later, so let's focus on the Wee Tanks shirt first. We cannot print the likeness of Among Us. Excuse me, could you please tell me what Among Us likeness you are referring to? So in the design, we have 8 tanks from Wii Tanks, 6 brown and 2 green. Anyone who's seen my video on Wii Tanks will know that the green tanks have similar AI to the brown, except they are stupidly smart, which is why they are being called out in the text above that says there are 2 imposters among us, which is obviously a reference to Among Us, but using the likeness of a character and making a reference are 2 completely different things, mostly in the fact that you can't copyright a reference. If I'm using the likeness of anything, it's Wii Tanks. But since this is clearly not where the problem lies in the eyes of Spreadshirt, let's pretend for a second that we are the Among Us team and see what we could potentially claim this design on. Well, the tanks are out of the question since they are not from that game, so that just leaves us with the text. There is the word imposter here, but copyright protection does not exist for single words or short phrases. For example, the word Apple is protected in the domain of computer products, but otherwise Apple was a pre-existing word and you don't need to pay royalties to sell or talk about real apples. This also leads into the use of the phrase Among Us right here. By saying Among Us in this context, I am not referring to the title of the game Among Us. I am literally saying there are 2 imposters among this group of tanks. The only thing left here is the font itself. The font in question is called VCR OSD Mono. It is true that the game Among Us does indeed use this font, but VCR OSD Mono is a free font that the creators of Among Us A, did not make, and B, do not own the rights to. It's similar to how the character Sans speaks in the font Comic Sans, which is likewise a free font that comes pre-installed on most operating systems. If I wrote, "You're going to have a bad time" in Comic Sans, I am not infringing on the rights of Undertale. All of this probably seems pretty obvious to most of you, but if Amanda here believes that any of this is using the likeness of Among Us, then I thought it was worth going over. If I used the character from Among Us, that would be one thing, but that's not the case as we already established. Anyways, they continue. Taking a picture or drawing does not sanction the rights to use the design on our products, even if you alter the design digitally. This is a really odd and vague blanket statement that is technically true, sure, but I'm not sure what it has to do with either of these designs, especially this last part right here. It would seem that Amanda is under the impression that I took an actual picture of Kermit from the internet somewhere and then altered it into this design. I can assure you this was drawn from scratch, but I digress. They continue. Interpretations are a representation of the original work. Yeah? Did they just copy and paste a bunch of stock insert responses and compose an email out of them? While this vague statement is likewise true, it doesn't really mean anything on its own. There's an anime called The Devil is a Part-Timer, and in said anime, there is a restaurant called McDonald's. This is an obvious interpretation of McDonald's, but just interpreting something doesn't inherently mean it's going against copyright. The reason this anime is able to have a series primarily focused on their spoof of McDonald's is because the work is transformative, which is one of the main things that will be taken into question when these accounts ever get to court. So again, the statement doesn't mean a whole lot on its own. We have sole discretion over the designs that we will print, and if we feel any design submitted border on any of these topics, we will not print them. Now here is something that we can wrap our heads around. So while the Among Us reference is totally in the clear, the tag team design is way more of a gray area, and I understand their concern. This is a bit of my fault. If I would have told my bud to draw Kermit in the way he's interpreted in my videos, it would have not been in this questionable copyright limbo it's in now. While Kermit from The Muppets is a soft-tempered character with a heart of gold and a good attitude, how I write Kermit for my videos is anything but. He's loud, he's annoying, he's moody, constantly yelling, destruction of property, taking away focus from the video, and to reflect these character traits, I animate him in a way that is much more indicative of a show like Ren and Stimpy. All this to say, I could change Kermit's design to just about anything I wanted and the character would still work. My friend designed him to look more similar to his actual Muppets appearance, and apparently did such a good job, it seems Amanda thought it was just a design we altered digitally. He already went back to work to alter the tag team design so the work will be more transformative, but here's the bottom line. When I first submitted all this stuff to Spreadshirt in the beginning of January, and if they would have rejected the Kermit design, you know, contacted me and went, hey, this isn't a gray area, we don't want to have to go to court for this, I would have been like, fair enough. Well, assuming they didn't randomly randomly reject my logo first, of course. But that's why I set all this up in advance to begin with, so I can make any changes if necessary before I made it all public. But that's not what happened. They approved every last one of my designs, and then once I'm fully committed with the video, and I already went ahead to tell all of you about it, that's when they decided to pull the plug. My logo I owned all the rights to, the tanks design which does not use the likeness of Among Us, and the tag team design which I would have been, and am, willing to change if Spreadshirt would have just talked to me about it. They made me look like a complete jackass in front of everyone, and there was no communication whatsoever until after I took everything down like a nervous dog that just took a dump in the living room. And even then, the response I was given was absolutely terrible and showcases, at least to me, they have no idea what they're doing. Needless to say, I'm going to have to find another distributor. I am extremely grateful for all the support I got with my initial merch video and how much people wanted some of my merch. I promised it will all be released again at some point, but I want to find a good provider I won't run into all these issues with. I put up with a lot of bullcrap. I mean, it's practically my job as a content creator. But in situations like this, I am not going to throw away 2 months of work just because a company doesn't know how to talk to its customers. I will try to keep you updated on what happens next, but until then, I'm moving the hell on. Dude, this sucks!